This place hides a grim secret. The Kosovo quarry is in Serbia, not far from the border with Kosovo. After a long search, a further mass grave was found here at the end of 2020, with victims from the Kosovo War. There are still 1,600 people missing since the war, most of them Kosovo Albanians. Arsim Gecaliu is the head of the Institute of Forensic Medicine in Pristina. He is always present when the remains of victims are recovered and have to be identified. He says this is often difficult after more than 20 years. What's good about these remains that we found last week is that the clothes are intact. What's also very helpful is when there is a wedding ring or something similar. The forensic scientist and his family also suffered terribly in the war. He lost 33 relatives, including a cousin and his 8 children. He's set himself a life's task: to identify the victims that are found. He says that genetic comparisons can be very helpful, but family members are not always willing to cooperate because they find it so hard to accept the terrible truth. Some of the remains from the last war cannot be identified because there are families who don't want to give any blood for identification purposes, even though we think that the dead are probably their relatives. These families still hope that their loved ones are alive and detained somewhere in Serbia. He knows many families that are still looking for their relatives. He says he finds it very difficult to inform people when the remains of their loved ones have been found. The first reaction of these families is completely understandable. When you bring them this news, the scenes from 1999 come alive again. Many of them saw their relatives being dragged away, and they relived the scenes today. He drove with us to Dakovica, a city in Kosovo where hundreds of Albanians were killed. Ferdoni Çekerzi still lives here today. The two have known each other for a long time. She too will never get over her pain, and today her house is almost like a museum. On March 27, 1999, Serbian police arrived and took away her husband and their 4 sons, including the youngest, Edmondo, who was only 14. That was the worst.
My son Mundi was sitting behind me. I said to him, "Stand up, the police are here." They took all the men and were looking for one more. I said, "You've got them all." And they said, "No, we want another one."
The bodies of 2 sons were found in 2005. The clothes of a third were also found. Her 4th son and her husband are still missing. There were also Serbian victims of the war. Natasha Čepanović is a Serb from Kosovo. During the war, she fled to Belgrade, but her parents refused to go with her. They were killed a few days later.
They stayed in Kosovo, and that was the wrong decision, but they didn't want to leave their home.
In 2014, Čepanović founded the Association of Kosovar Victims, which tries to find out the truth about what happened to those missing on both sides.
For me, it's not important that I am a Serb and the others are Albanians. We're united by our pain. Our grief is the same. We want the same things. We have the same goals. We want to find the remains of our poor relatives.
The authorities estimate that the remains of another 250 victims still lie in the quarry at Kiševac. A lot of painstaking work lies ahead for Arsim Gecaliu and the others. They cannot take away the pain from the families, But perhaps they can help some of them find a sense of closure by giving them the news that a victim has been identified.